Listen, my first class, I talk about themes. And I said, what's the most famous case theme that everyone knows, right? If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. Pop it up on the PowerPoint. And it was like blank stares. And I was just like, no one knows who Johnny Cochran is. I was just like, oh my God, it was.
Welcome to the Tip the Scales podcast, where we discuss running and growing your law firm. I'm your host, Maria Monroy, president and co-founder of LawRank. Today, I am joined by the one and only Sara Williams. This is her second time on the podcast, right? We talked about social media and how you approach social media. We talked about how times are changing and also branding a firm.
And taking ownership of your brand and not letting others control it.
I love it. Well, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Sara Williams.
I'm here. Are we recording?
Yes.
Oh.
Are we?
Let's start there. Okay.
I'm so excited to have you back.
I'm excited to be back. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
I know.
I feel like I went from seeing you like once a month to
Yes.
now like once a year.
Yeah. You're not someone I spend a lot of time with, but I really, really feel like I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last time we were together often?
I don't know, but you've always been so wonderful to me. So you hold a special place in my heart. Yeah. Did I ever tell you? I think I did tell you how when you started like your personal brand, everyone kept messaging me and being like, is Sara Williams leaving Shannara? Did Sara leave Shannara? And I'm just like, why don't you just ask her?
Why don't you ask me? You know, the crazy part is literally on launch date, I wrote like what I thought was a compelling message explaining because I knew that people were going to think that. But no one reads anymore.
Oh.
And then the first conference after was NTL. And so a bunch of people were going up to him and they were like, have you seen what Sara's doing? And he was like, what is she doing? Like her videos. Have you seen her videos? And
why
he was
are
like,
people...
I know, I'm so excited about it. And I've been trying to push her forever to, brand herself separately. And they're like, wait, what? Because I think the traditional male law firm model is you are on the team and the team is the team and you are not an individual. And, you can't everything is under my umbrella, right? Everything's under the firm umbrella. And Alex is just, he has an ego about some things, but, he's all about opportunity. He's like, look, people like you who don't like me, and they'll send you a case that they won't send to me. Why wouldn't I want you to do that? But I also think a lot of law firms feel like they own people. And
totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally. But also, can we just before we keep going with this subject, why do people care so much? Don't get me wrong, I'm nosy too, but I just go to the source and I'm just like, wait, did you leave? I would have just asked you, did you leave? I've asked you, how does Alex feel about it?
Right.
But instead of going to Alex and talking, and asking, even coming to me, it's why are you coming to me? Just ask if you're that curious. And don't get me wrong, I'm a very curious person.
Right.
But I just go to the source. I don't like that they went to Alex.
It was, what I love about it though, is that he was like, yeah, I saw it. I encouraged her to do it. What I didn't like was folks were essentially telling him that he should not support me in that venture. And he's like, do you know how long it took me to convince her to do it, first of all?
Yeah.
But his whole thing was, look, maybe she does leave, but she's my friend. I love her as a person. And so if that's her journey,
right,
to one day have her own firm, I'm still going to send her business. And that's the thing I love about him. I think that's why our relationship has always been what it is because he doesn't feel like I belong to him, right? He honors that every lawyer has a different path. And maybe we're just together for a time. People were actively attempting to get him to discourage me doing the branding. And they said, she's just going to gut your firm. because, like 15 of my former students work with us. And he said, maybe she does. Maybe she does, but I can't live life like that, right?
And maybe she doesn't. Maybe she gets a ton of cases referred.
Listen, Alex is my overhead sugar daddy. And so as long, look,
You're happy.
I'm happy.
Yes, you've always said that.
And I practice with some of my best friends.
That's
and
amazing.
I get to bring in my students. And I get to do the things that I want to do. I went to Scotland for 6 weeks and taught,
Yeah. I loved following your stories during that time.
Well, you could come.
I wasn't invited.
Well, this is your invitation. Listen.
Okay. Anywhere you go, I'm invited?
Anywhere I go, you're invited. But I think what the fear is what has happened. And it is that there will be a wave of especially women lawyers who go, oh, we can do this too, right? And we can brand ourselves separately. And so I think that people discouraging him was less about them worrying about him.
Oh, it's more about themselves.
And more about, oh my gosh, what if my powerhouse woman lawyer wants to do the same thing? And now I have to answer the question of, well, it worked for Sarah and Alex, is letting her do it. And I remember him saying,
letting you, like,
that's what, are you letting her do that?
Like you're his child?
Can you imagine? He was like, I just want y'all to know I don't let Sarah do anything. Like, let me put that on the record so y'all don't roll around.
I want someone to say that to me about you so I can check them.
You let Sarah. Oof.
This is why people think I'm scary.
Yeah, maybe that's why they think I'm scary too.
Because you just call it, like you just say it how it is.
Yeah, it's like you don't control me. You let me do something.
I remember when I first started doing conferences, a guy was like, your husband lets you come to these? I was like, no, I save up for my allowance and I climb out the window at night and get on a plane.
Right. That's like one of the number one questions. I did like a unofficial poll because I did some content on that. Like what do men say to you at conferences that kind of makes you feel like you don't belong? And that was the number one. It was, oh my gosh, how great is it that your husband lets you come to these things? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of how we pay our bills because I'm the primary breadwinner, right? Oh, what do you do with your kids when you're at these? It's all of that.
It's so ridiculous. I don't know why I thought of this, but like I saw this video the other day of like, was like this TikTok of like a mom cooking, like holding her baby and like her child is there and it's like classical music is playing and the husband comes and kisses her. And like she puts like, I can't believe they had to convince us that like that's femininity's not doing this and like this whole rant. And I never comment on anything. Like I'm not a troll or a hater. And I literally tagged my friends and I was like, because this is what motherhood looks like. Like that is not what it looks like. I'm sorry. Like there's no classical music playing.
There's some kids screaming in the background.
Thank you.
Here's my thing though. For me, it is, I think that there are women who thrive in that.
And good for them.
I'm trying to find one. Come be the mom and wife at my house too.
Or mine.
Right? Like that, I think that I think that is valuable, right? I don't think enough men appreciate how much they thrive in their careers because they have a woman at home manning those things that they don't even have to think about.
I love it when a man does, because when I interview men, some have brought it up. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I'm like, yes, because her job is harder than yours. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. The goal is for you, if you are a woman, to, and that is not your thing, like me, to be able to have options. Yeah. That is the point of feminism.
A happy mom is a good mom, period. And if being at home baking makes you happy, that's amazing. I wish I were like that. I genuinely do. I wish that it had come easy to me and I was like Mary fucking Poppins, but I'm not. But this makes me happy.
I don't wish I was Mary Poppins. I think that I like who I am.
It's like the guilt. It's the mom guilt, you know, talking for me.
Yeah.
Jen helped me with my mom guilt.
Because our kids are good. Like the experiences that they have are going to be different from a stay-at-home mom. But like, dude, Malone is good. And she's good with the life that we have.
So I asked my middle child the other day. I was like on the phone with one of my best friends in the car so he could hear a conversation. And I was like, hey, what would you prefer? I'm home with you all day, stressed, on Instagram all day, like snapping at you, or I give you 30 minutes of my undivided attention where we play and talk and hang out. And he's like, for the 30 minutes any day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay. Because Christian Morris said to me something along the lines of like 20 minutes a day. Each child, 20 minutes a day, undivided attention. That like her therapist had told her, like at the very, like that's like, you gotta get that in every day. Like it's not about being there all the time. It's about being there. And if you think about it, and I know it's not the same thing, but like a friend, sometimes you just need them for like 5 minutes. And like your cup is full because they heard you vented about whatever the fuck, right? I get that it's not the same. And like there's so much more that goes into it. But this idea that we have to be there all the time with them.
They don't want us all the time. Yeah, I listen.
All right.
And I think it's important for us to show them autonomy. To show them
happiness.
That their
agency.
Yes, that their lives don't turn on whether or not they can bake a cake or bake cookies. And that's great if they can, but they also can do these other things and have a life, and like their worth isn't tied into like the thing that irks me with my students, my law students, is when they talk to me about, especially their third year, that's kind of when like people start the early marriages, and then they're the ones who are like, oh, well, who am I if I'm not getting married, I'm not in a relationship. And it's like, dude, if you tie your self-worth to relationship status, you're going to be in a bad spot.
Really bad.
You know what I mean?
Totally. And I think like the worst thing for a child is a parent that sacrifices everything to be with them and they're unhappy and resentful. And the child's like, I didn't ask you for that. Because like, that's not pleasant either. But anyways, back to your brand. Let's back to your personal brand. Tell us about like your videos, how often you record, who edits them. Like, do you plan them? Is it ad hoc? Like show us behind the scenes a little bit. Like right now, you have what is this thing called?
The DJI Osmo 3. It's a Pocket 3.
Okay.
This is what happens when you follow too many like content creators. So for me, it has been an evolution. I went from when I first started branding, we were with Crisp. And so we had a schedule and they planned out, our topics with our input. But a lot of that I did with the firm. And then, and Alex, paid for that. But then when I pivoted
Your sugar daddy?
my sugar daddy. When I pivoted to handling it myself and figuring out a different budget, because my budget is obviously different than Alex's budget. And the thing for us was, how do you get paid on your cases when they're originated by me versus him if he's contributing to my marketing? And so I didn't want him paying for my marketing and that undermining my origination percentage. That was important for me. And that's a question I get a lot, right? Is who pays for it? Why do you pay for it? And for me, it's negotiation power, right? Like I have more power over the negotiating on the origination percentages when I'm paying for my marketing myself, because that's my overhead. So I found the other issue I had was finding a videographer that could shoot dark skin, because the lighting is just different. And so I found a photographer who was like a family photographer. She took our Christmas photos, and I said, will you do some brand photography for me? And then she helped me find a videographer that she had worked with. And so they just became my content team.
That's awesome.
And then I planned my videos for a while, and then it got to the point where I couldn't be consistent enough. And so I brought on a social media manager.
Okay.
And she'll do some market research and kind of send me some ideas or things that have worked well for me in the past, or questions that people have had in the comments that didn't get answered. Or if I've been DM'd a question, sometimes that turns into a content piece. And so we'll plan the month, and I typically I used to shoot once a quarter.
Oh, wow.
But that's an exhausting day.
That sounds like hell.
It's to shoot 3 months worth of content is exhausting. And so This year is my year of audacity. So I am ramping up. I plan on ramping up my social media presence. I'm rebranding my website, pivoting into some other things. And so I'm shooting once a month.
Okay. And how often are you posting videos? Like reels?
So right now the schedule is once a day. So once Monday through Friday.
Okay.
I do one post a day, but my goal is to ramp that up to 2 to 3 posts a day.
Wow. And tell
Reels
me,
plus static, plus carousel.
that was my question, my next question. So what's the breakdown? Is it 1-to-1? So do you just alternate one reel, one static, one carousel, or?
It depends on the topic.
Okay.
It depends on the topic. So we usually will plan the content week around. So I will do, it's more topical. So Mondays and Fridays are motivational. Tuesdays and Thursdays are educational. Wednesday is humor.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that. And what about stories? Like, how do you utilize Instagram stories? Because you're pretty active on there too.
So it depends on the day. So the package with my social media manager, she'll do 1 to 2 stories a day.
Okay.
And so those are pre-planned along with the content for that day.
Okay.
And then if, like, say, for instance, I'm traveling, I'll
Mhm.
try to do some day in the life stuff while I'm traveling, or there's stuff that's associated with my law school where I'll share those things. So I try to also share things too, because what we have found, it's important to have someone who can break the analytics down to you, right? Because I think as users of these platforms, we look at the vanity metrics of likes and comments. And you really have to have someone who breaks down your engagement. And so once a month, I get a very detailed report that breaks down the engagement and the analytics. And so based on that, we're learning that people tend to engage more when it's me, like personal and less produced. And so this year, that's why I bought the DJI Osmo. I'm working on showing up on camera without the makeup artist, hairstylist, like just more real day in the life. It seems more spontaneous versus produced.
Do you guys follow trends? And are you on TikTok?
So I finally broke down, shout out to my friend Kyra, and I joined TikTok this year. I'm mad at myself for not doing it earlier.
I'm not on there still.
Dude, the analytics on TikTok
I have
are
it,
so much better.
but I don't post and I don't use it.
It is a different animal. I am getting used to it. But what I do like is testing videos there.
Okay.
Because their analytics are better. Like it'll tell you where in the video people left, where did they
Ooh.
like it. And so sometimes I will recut videos for Instagram based on how people responded in TikTok.
That's interesting. I'm going to try it. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And my audience is different in TikTok. TikTok is a younger audience. The content that I do on TikTok is more spontaneous. Like, it's funny. I saw a creator say, when TikTok was shutting down, she did this video where she had her makeup. She's like, well, I guess I got to do my makeup to show up on Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram is much more I would never show up on Instagram in my bonnet. But while I'm here in Miami, I filmed a get ready with me video that I may post. I'm going to edit it and see if I like it. And
that's interesting you say that, because right before they banned TikTok for 14 hours, I actually went on it, or right after they unbanned it. I don't remember, because somebody had told me, you don't understand. TikTok is like a community. It's so different. It's nothing like Reels. So I was curious. So I spent a few hours on it. And what I realized is that the content seems such less produced. Like Reels, it's always it feels like it's very podcast style and very formal and very not produced, because it's still fast content, but much more produced. Whereas TikTok, it was literally just people pulling out their phone and talking about God knows what.
It's ranting.
It's so different.
I feel like you would really do well on TikTok as just yourself versus your company. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially because you are a woman who has built a powerful company. And there is a lot of that. There are people, and I get the questions you get and the comments people ask you.
Wait, what do people ask me?
People will ask you, like, and on TikTok, people will ask you some of the most, like, they talk to you like they're your friend.
Oh, I
It's
see what you mean.
wild.
Okay. They ask you.
Yeah, they ask it. So it's different, but I think that what I like about it is I'm figuring out, what I want to do there, but I do like that it's more relaxed. But the younger generation is there. Like, it's getting to the point where, Instagram is going the way of Facebook for them.
Oh, we're getting old.
I know.
Okay. I feel like 2 Super Bowls ago, whoever would perform, I would be like, I don't even know who they are. Like, I'm too young. Like, I don't And then last year, I was like, oh, finally someone I like. And then this year, it was someone my kids liked. I'm like, hey, I thought I had like a good 10 years of Super Bowl performances where it was someone I like. Like, my kids were all excited. I'm like, I've listened to Kendrick Lamar or whatever his name is, but like, I'm not a fan. My kids are actual fans. So I'm very disappointed at the Super Bowl for
Really?
aging me that quickly.
Oh, for aging you. Listen, teaching always makes me feel really old because now, like, my friends' children are in law school and they'll come up to me and they're like, my mom told me to tell you hi. And I'm like,
Aw.
wait, who is your mama? Oh, okay. And I have reached that age. And then, like, some of the cultural references in my PowerPoints for class, they don't get.
You text me bet today. I said, let's do the podcast at 12:30, and you responded bet. If I didn't have children, I would have been like, bet what?
Yeah, but that's just like old school Black, like.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because my kids say bet. It's like
maybe it's back.
it is back. It's like one of the kids,
Because I remember in a class saying, I was talking about a case and I was like, yeah, and then these two had beef with each other and my students were like, beef.
I know.
And I was like,
that one I know, but bet I only know because my kids will say bet.
listen, my first class, I talk about themes. And I said, what's the most famous case theme that everyone knows, right? If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Pop it up on the PowerPoint. And it was like blank stares. And I was just like, no one knows who Johnny Cochran is. I was just like, oh my God, it was.
What do you think they think it is? Like, did you ask them?
They didn't know.
But
they didn't have one.
But did they have one?
They didn't have one.
Okay.
They didn't have one.
That's interesting.
Because if you think about it, there have been some, I don't know that there has been a trial in their generation as big as the O.J. Simpson trial. Like, we were watching that trial in school, right?
I mean, what about the one with the little girl? Okay, the mom with the girl that
John Benet Ramsey.
No.
Oh, no.
No, the more recent Casey something.
Casey Anthony. Yeah,
that's it.
They would have been like in elementary and middle school.
And maybe it's like something like your parents don't really want you to watch. It's not like.
Yeah, and some of the trials, like, obviously we had, the one with like Johnny Depp, but I don't think there has been a public trial with as dynamic a trial lawyer as Johnny Cochran was in their age. And so, yeah, teaching will make you feel.
I bet.
That's bad. But it does also keep me young, right?
Yes.
Because it's like, okay, what's going on the TikTok today, y'all? Y'all tell me.
So they've actually done studies on it, and like people that dress younger, their bodies are healthier. So there is like something there. But anyways, back to you and I.
Branding. I know we're all over the place. I
had a question. How long have you been doing it?
I think December 2020. So I was managing the firm from 2017 to the end of 2020. So I think like January 1, 2021 is when I launched. So 3 years, 4 years.
But when did people, because I feel like there was a time when people realized that you were doing this. Like, I feel like it didn't.
Yeah, I think it picked up. Like, NTL was that of 2021 was that first conference when folks were like, but it takes time to get traction. And so
because 2 years ago is when people started asking me, because there's something you did. You posted something
That made people think I was leaving the firm?
It must have been because there was a trigger.
Oh, you know what? 2 years ago, so this is my second year of my contract with Cumberland, and I think people thought when I took on the job as director of advocacy there that I was leaving the practice. Even though, again, my caption clearly stated that I
No,
was
but
not.
it
You
also
think it was something else?
I think maybe it was a combo. I don't know. It's weird that I didn't
I
hear
think
it.
the other thing is people did not see us together. Like Alex and I used to be together all the time.
I'm sure like a rumor started and that's
Oh, I'm
what
sure.
that's what did it.
I'm
Okay,
sure.
so here's the $1 million question. Has it worked?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yes. And not just for me. Every person I know who's been like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. It's worked for them. My friend Kyra, who 2023, she was like, you know what, can I come to a shoot with you and just see how it works? And I was like, well, don't just come and watch, right? Sketch out some videos and you do some videos too.
Oh, you're a
And
good
so
friend.
she did some videos and then we did some stuff together. And dude, now she's got like 25,000 followers on TikTok and she has left her firm and she started her own firm and she's got a ton of associates.
But see,
And
that's the fear right there.
that is the fear, right?
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy? She wouldn't have if she had been treated right. It's a circular argument because the thing is, and folks at my firm say Sara gets to do what she wants to do. It's like, yes, I do get to do what I want to do because Alex knows that at the end of the day, I can take care of myself, right? If there's a lull in cases at the firm, like I'm going to originate enough car wreck cases to keep my head above water and enough,
Yeah.
that he doesn't have to worry about me, right?
Right.
Like I'm going to contribute versus constantly just taking.
Right.
Um,
Pay
and
for yourself.
yeah, and so it's one of those things where, yeah, I can ask for what I want, and I always say, my line is, Alex likes to say cases are king. I say cases make queens. The chess piece that moves the way she wants to on that board is a queen. And I go where I want to go. And I left and I went to Scotland for 6 weeks last year. And I'm going again this year to teach for 4 weeks. And when we bought our new building, I almost didn't move in because my office was too small. So he snatched an office from someone else and blew out a wall and created a larger office for me. And it's like, yeah, I do get what I want.
But you know your worth.
And I'm going to ask for it. And he gets frustrated because he says, like, I am a very hostile negotiator. He's like, it's really not a negotiation. I'm like, it is a negotiation. You can either do the thing or you can say no and I can leave. That is a choice that you have and we'll still be friends.
Talk about boundaries.
I'm working on my boundaries.
So my therapist said to me the other day, she's like, Maria, the boundary has to be very clear because I'm typically pretty good, but I had done this thing where the boundary wasn't clear. And she was like, the boundary is if you do this, then I do this. The boundary isn't, please don't do this.
That's exactly right.
And it was like crazy to me because I've always thought that I was a person that, and I have really good boundaries for the most part. But I was like, fuck, even I'm not perfect. Like she got me there. I totally fucked up that boundary.
Mm-hmm.
So like now I have to go back and like set the boundary,
I think it is because as women, we are taught that our value in life is sacrifice. Like if you think about when women are applauded, how people talk about their mothers, it's always like even Mother's Day, you'll look at people's messages and it's, my mother gave up everything for me. My mother always ate last. My mother always put herself last. Right? That is like, if you are a woman who puts yourself last for your family, like you're like the, that is the gold star. And so I think that happens for women in business too. You put your needs last, even when you're negotiating. And I think firms take advantage of that because they know you've been socialized to do that. And so when you ask for things, they'll say things like, well, this would be more fair to the firm, or we've got to consider these other people. Like I've had women come up to me and say that they haven't gotten certain bonuses, even though they've made more money because the male lawyers have families that they have to take care of, and they have wives who don't work, and you have a husband who does work. And my thing is this: we are in this business to earn a living, right? It's not the family business. It's not the friend's business. I love Alex, right? I consider him family. But when it comes down to our business, it's business. And that's what I love about him, is that it's business for him too. You know what I mean? And so at the end of the day, the question is this: how does the money work out, right? And how does it work out in my best interest? That's the decision. And at this point in my career, what do I want to do and what do I want to work on? Because, we had 2 lawyers pass away last year. It was the first time we've had lawyers pass away at our firm. And when we called the bar to ask, one of our lawyers had a massive heart attack, to ask how do we need to go about reassigning his cases? Like, this has never happened to us. They said, in 48 hours, you need to notify all of the clients. And we're like, really? It wasn't a long drawn out illness. Like, he dropped dead in the shower. And so, but we had 48 hours. And I said to myself in that moment, this industry cares nothing for our lives. Like, I am going to make my life a priority. And I told Alex that going to Scotland is an experience. I want my daughter to have the experience of living internationally. I think that makes our children better. I think it gives them a better experience and perspective. And so you can decide, though, that you don't want a lawyer who's gone for that long being associated with your firm. And I will pack up my stuff, and I will, when I get back, have some new office space. He's like, that's not a negotiation. I'm like, you have an option. But that's a boundary for me, because this is what I want for my life. And if I drop dead tomorrow, the bar's going to tell you in 48 hours, reassign her case.
That's ridiculous. But also, I agree with Alex. I don't think that's a negotiation.
It'd be your own friends. Don't cut that out for Alex. It is a negotiation, boo.
No, it's not. But I love that, because why does everything have to be a negotiation?
And it's my life. I don't have to negotiate my life with anyone. That's exactly right.
That's what I mean.
That's exactly right.
Like, what you want out of life, like, why does that have to be a negotiation? If it doesn't work for him, then okay, you part ways.
Right.
So this idea that it has, and I love Alex.
Right.
I love Alex. He's one of the first people I met. I didn't even know he was a big deal. Like,
I remember we were on that plane together. Where were we going or coming from?
We must have connected in Atlanta for something.
Yeah.
I must have had like a layover in Atlanta. So I don't remember. Like, and maybe it was from NTL, and then I connected in Atlanta.
Yeah,
you guys probably connected too. I don't know. I don't remember, but I love Alex, but I would like, why does it have to be a negotiation? Why does every conversation have to be a negotiation? It could just be like, hey, I need this. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
If it doesn't, it doesn't.
It's not like you're going to negotiate the ability to drink water. It's like, it's not a negotiation. Like, I need to drink water. So I would tell Alex, yeah, it's not meant to be a negotiation.
Yeah. And there are some other things that I'm probably the same way on that should be a negotiation, but like my office space. Again, I'm always also willing to do the uncomfortable thing and pay for my own space. But like, I know what I need to work comfortably. And there are some things we do negotiate on, fee percentages, we negotiate on. And in terms of, maybe sometimes like a lawyer will refer a case to me, but it's someone that we cultivated a relationship with together. And so that's a conversation that we have. I think the mistake most lawyers make, obviously, is giving too much power to their law firms in those negotiations when you've brought in the case. That shows that you have the power to do your own thing. And so I negotiate that way. I negotiate as if I have the power to go out and do it on my own, because building a brand has allowed me to do that. And
building a brand, like your results, like it's your experience, like so much, right? And I would argue you guys have a partnership,
right?
And in any sort of partnership, you're not going to always agree, and there is going to be give and take, and there are going to be non-negotiables.
That's right.
Like you going to Scotland. I mean, was non-negotiable.
The good thing, I think, when you develop your own brand, and I will say this, I don't do anything that that would ever embarrass the firm. I think my brand complements the firm. I think it complements him. Um, I mean, right now my social is probably better than his, but that's a whole different discussion. But I do think that you can't just, if you're going to build a brand within a brand, you can't just go off on your own and say, like, I'm going to do some stuff that isn't in alignment or complementary to my firm's existing brand. Like, at that point, you probably just need to go and do your own thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and now we're seeing the opposite, right? Like, Jen just joined a firm, but she has her own personal brand, right? And she did mention that having seen you do it gave her the confidence in being able to do this.
Right.
Which is really neat.
I love that. I think, and we've all attended the same marketing conferences and heard the venture capitalist is going to take over everything and everyone's searching for Alex's name. What's good is when people call the firm and say they want to be hired or they want to be represented by Sara Williams, you can't buy that. If they go, like, you may be able to buy my name, but if they call and ask to speak and be retained by me, you can't transfer the line and send them to a Sara Williams. You don't have her.
Right.
And so Alex actually encourages all of the lawyers at our firm to develop their own brand because he wants for the lawyers to have individual name recognition because so many people, pay for his name. And we have had circumstances where folks have gone to other firms and they've said, oh, we work for them. We work with Alex. He refers us cases. That's how you got here. But what you can't replicate are the lawyers within that firm. And so I think that every lawyer has a brand. You have one unknowingly, you either control it or you don't. And that's been the other thing for me, because there are organizations when you're asked to speak, especially with women and people of color, where they will put us in these slots. Like I remember getting put in a slot for low impact or non-catastrophic trucking cases. And I was like, I don't know how I agreed to speak on this subject because I don't want to be branded as the non-catastrophic trucking lawyer. I've got one of the largest commercial motor vehicle verdicts in the state of Alabama. Like, why in the world am I speaking on non-catastrophic trucking cases, right? But if you allow people, if you just kind of go with the flow, then people will establish your brand for you. And so irrespective of what your firm politics are, like, I think firms do their lawyers a disservice when they're like, you do everything with the firm and you don't need to have a separate identity. And why would you brand yourself separately? It's like, well, everyone has a brand. It's taking ownership of it.
I love that. And like, you either grow the brand or you don't.
And people need to know what you do, right? Like, I think that people have these egos where they're like, oh, I think the folks I go to church with and the folks in my kids' school, like, I think they know what I do just because they should know. Why do you think people are like checking for you like that? We're all busy. You have to tell people what you're doing and you have to tell them the types of cases that you want to work on. And so people will get frustrated that their neighbors will call another lawyer or will call our firm. It's like, well, you know what? They know what we do. You are ashamed to go to church and tell the people you go to church with what you do, or to put out there on your social media what you do. Like, if you're just using social media to share pictures of you going to a football game or your kids in ballet, it's a waste of time. Like, get a private YouTube channel for your family. I have a private YouTube channel for my family, right? And I have a private Facebook where my family sees things. But when it comes, but I also post things about what I do there because my law school classmates now know. I don't see them all the time, but they know what I do. And so they will call me. I got an email yesterday from a law school classmate that's out of state, but she's from Alabama and one of her family members got hurt. I haven't seen her in 12 years,
Yeah.
And this idea that you're always going to be able to catch people at conferences, I can attend less conferences because I have a social media presence. And people will say, I see you everywhere. you really haven't seen me much. Right? But you think you do
Yeah.
because every time you pick up your phone, you see me.
Yeah. You're very top of mind for me, and I
Yeah.
haven't seen you in forever.
Right?
Right? So I think you're right. And you are right. I've heard this before of lawyers that were like, I thought people knew what I did, but they didn't. And I had to like remind them, and I had to like start using social. And like, you're not the first person that says this to me. And I don't think why. I always tell lawyers, like, have no shame. Like, you go to the kids' soccer game, you tell everyone what the fuck you do. You ask them for reviews on your Google My Business. Like, have no shame. You cannot have shame and tell me that you want to grow.
It's a lot easier to do it for me. Like, I'm an introverted person. I hate face-to-face, like
Really?
asking people. I am. I like things though. And I was an English major. So it was this or teach English, you know? So this is a necessary evil for me. But it's easier for me to ask a camera and then post it, right? And so I think that there are so many different avenues for communicating your brand now.
Yes.
But I will tell you what I think, because I've seen, who was it on your podcast? This is where I think the problem is. There is a stigma with marketing and lawyers. Good lawyers don't have to market.
Such a
right?
huge stigma. And I'm like, but if you want to help more people and the way to reach more people is to market, can you riddle me that? Because I'm very confused.
The reality is when they are at these conferences and sitting in dinners with each other, they're marketing, right? This idea that your skill set is tied to whether you market or not is, I'm not going to say it's elitist, but you know what? It's elitist. And it's the problem with this industry, right? And part of it is because the groups that have controlled, who is the best, right? Who is the best lawyer is absolutely a function of the quality of your network, right? Because there are some really great lawyers out there that we don't know just because they don't brand themselves, they
Right.
don't market, they don't show up at all the things. There are some lawyers who, quite frankly, aren't that great once you work with them, that this industry holds out as being great lawyers because they are tied into the right networks. And so I think that there is a fear that the combination of marketing plus skill is going to really push out some of those folks, right? Who are insiders, right? They are inside the organizations. They have built those networks that have been exclusive, that have been, not welcoming to certain demographics of people. And to me, especially for women, I think that you have the opportunity to communicate and to take ownership of your own brand. And the fact that folks, instead of doing that, are like, hello, here is a picture of me at the beach and these are my toes. It's like, unless you're selling feet pics, you know what I mean? Which,
Hey,
no judgment. Look,
zero judgment.
no judgment,
Whatever
'cause
makes you happy.
the way
And
things are going with tort reform, your girl may be getting some pedicures and slanging feet pics too. But I just digital marketing as it stands right now, we'll see how things go, is such a powerful tool um for those of us who have been historically excluded from the networks that decide who's the best. Like, you can't tell someone that I'm not a good trial lawyer because they can pull up my Instagram and see my results. Right? And so that's what used to happen to our firm a lot. Folks would say, oh, they're just a billboard firm. They're a TV firm. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, I just pulled up their Instagram and so-and-so just got a $19 million verdict. Tell me how that translates to being a billboard firm that doesn't try cases, right? You can't lie about what we do when we are taking ownership of our brand. And so,
yeah, but
I've been a big proponent of it. I will speak about it everywhere I go because I think that it is the avenue to the freedom that women seek to be, queens.
But you know what? Back to this, like I'm a trial lawyer, therefore I don't market. I think that it's complete bullshit, and it's an excuse that trial lawyers use because they're scared to go and do the hard thing, which is go put your face on a billboard and go market. and take control of your brand, and they don't want to do it because they think that I think it's really actually rooted in fear. It's not this thing of like, oh, I'm so legit that I'm not gonna, like, that makes no fucking sense. If you're that great, go put your face on a billboard.
You know what it is, though? It's a fear of how you will be perceived by people. But
get over that. Like,
that's an issue.
come on.
That's exactly right.
Come on.
And here's the thing. More people, that is an older, and I say older generation.
Yes,
I'm
I
in
agree
that.
with you.
It is my generation. These young folks,
It's changing.
They don't care.
But also it is changing.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you why I think it's bullshit and fear-based. And like, not only just fear-based, but like laziness and what are people going to think that I'm part of this clique? And like, we all say that this shouldn't be done and now I'm going to go do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are legit trial lawyers that do brand. So I'm very confused as to why some people say it can't be done and like when it can be done and it is done. So I think you really have to be honest with yourself and say, what is at the root of it? And it could just be like, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to spend that kind of money. I don't want to be a volume firm. But to say, oh, legit trial lawyers don't do that, that's not true. They do. They do it all the time.
It is not true, but it's like, I don't know if you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like the establishment.
I love conspiracies. I don't believe them all.
Right.
But I do love them.
Yeah, I think, I will say, as a conspiracy theorist, I think that it is much more about creating exclusivity than it is really about we truly believe that those folks aren't good lawyers. It is about keeping the cases in the same small pool of people who get the cases in. And times are changing. And these young lawyers are not afraid to pop on their cell phone and tell you how great they are and video themselves at the courthouse steps and speak to the people and explain the mystique of what we do. And if we're going to survive, like, I think you either have to market or not. And I've seen some folks on social who they apparently think social media marketing is different than being on the TV. And I'm like, there's no difference. There's no difference here, y'all. Like, digital marketing is the largest marketing industry, right? Like, no one's watching TV. No one's watching, our billboards are only a branding mechanism at this point, right? And so this idea that your Instagram is not marketing is silly. Just let it go. Just let it go.
This was great. And I hope that lawyers are motivated to brand themselves, have a personal brand, have a firm brand, do it all, because Jen and I just had a conversation how times are changing and how many more channels you have to saturate to be successful now. So thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to Sara for everything she shared with us today. If you found this story valuable, please share it with someone you want to see succeed. Subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave a 5-star review. It goes a long way to help others discover the show.